2024, you've been a year, and right now I cannot figure out which year had better game releases, this year or last. 2024 has been one of the hardest top 10 lists I've ever had to make, and in order to make it into this list, well, I've had to have played the game. I'm sure I missed a few, and if you think I did, please let me know down below what they are. And remember, this is just my opinion, and if you think it sucks, feel free to let me know. I can handle it. We're going to start off this video with an honorable mention, then my biggest disappointment of the year, followed by most likely to improve. So first up on honorable mention, we have Vendetta Forever. I just picked this game up a few days ago and I'm having an absolute blast with it. It's a great example of how VR games can feel fresh while still leaning on what some might consider old school, tired VR mechanics. As a VR veteran, I love seeing these ideas brought back in ways that is still exciting and fun. The gameplay is a bit like Super Hot but cranked up to a higher speed. And when you kill an enemy, you can teleport to the gun. And when you're nailing your movements and slicing through a stage, you're like a gun-wielding ninja. It's a really fun and physical puzzle, and Vendetta Forever is the kind of game that reminds you why VR is unique and thrilling. And it seems like this game is kind of flying under the radar a bit and not selling as good as it should. I recommend it, and I'm planning on doing a video comparing Vendetta Forever to Action Hero. They're both good, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, moving on. My biggest disappointment of the year goes to Astrobot. It's not a VR game, and it should be, and I'm still salty about that. What makes it worse is just how damn good this game is. Me and my kids have been playing it, and we're just loving it. And it feels like Sony really did us dirty here. I hope they surprise us with a VR mode, but I'm not holding my breath, and we need to move on before I get angry. Okay, my most likely to improve is Into the Radius 2. Not because it's a bad game, but really it's awesome. But I didn't want to put it in my top 10 because, quite frankly, it's just not finished. It's going to get a lot more content, and the mechanics are going to get more fleshed out as well. The first game was fleshed out beautifully, and I cannot wait to see what's in store for the sequel. These games know how to VR, but it's time for why you're here, the top 10. And to start off the list, at number 10, we have Mannequin. Mannequin is a prop hunt style game that pits aliens against agents. Having the mannequin strike a pose with their bodies is just a wonderful use of VR. And on the other side of the aisle, it's nerve-wracking and extremely fun to play as the agents hunting down those mannequins. When playing, I'm wide-eyed and paying attention to every little detail, fully engaged, and that's awesome. Mannequin is a lot of fun to play with friends, but unfortunately the public lobbies are a bit of a screecher fest, so keep that in mind. But since launch, they've added a ton of new content, new game modes, balance tweaks, abilities, maps, improved the UI, and now the game even has mod support for custom skins. I mean, who wouldn't want to walk around as Predator hunting xenomorphs? But I am a little worried about the longevity of the community here. Its future may be in organized games with friends, but it's a ton of lighthearted fun, and if you want to avoid the kids, find some friends to play with or join some discords with adults. Hint, hint. Okay, coming in at number 9, we have Into Black. I'm a big rock and stone fan, and you can clearly see the influence that deep rock has had here. And while it's certainly not on that level, it didn't disappoint either. As primarily a PSVR guy, Into Black looks amazing on the Quest, and I think this game is prime for porting to other platforms. It's a co-op multiplayer story-driven game where you and your friends embark on various missions to repair your ship. The gameplay is packed with meaningful resource gathering, bug-infested combat, and an upgrade system that's absolutely overflowing with options. It also features some creative use of motion controls in its resource gathering. And on top of that, some of the missions are very standout and memorable. The AI was a little shaky at launch, and it doesn't have that level RNG that we see in Deep Rock, but the devs have been steadily improving the AI, and overall it's a great game with creative VR ideas. My biggest gripe with it is that I think you actually have too much mobility. It's a bit easy to avoid damage and just blaze right through the environments. But despite that, Into Black has been one of the best surprises of 2024, and if you enjoy co-op adventures in VR, then give this one a look. Okay, next up at number 8 is a game that almost got awarded my biggest disappointment of the year, and that's EA Sports WRC. This was hands down my most anticipated game of the year. Technically, the game released at the end of 23, but we didn't get the VR mode until this year, and when it did arrive, it was a steaming pile of garbage. Since then, it's improved, but honestly, it still needs a lot of work. But here's the thing, rally racing in VR is just so damn thrilling. I can't help but love it. And despite its issues, it runs just well enough to deliver a truly exhilarating experience, especially when matched up with a force feedback wheel and pedals. But that setup, rally racing games might be the most immersive thing you can do in all of VR. The feel of the car, the bumps in the road, and listening to your co-driver callouts, it's simply amazing. I love the handling in this game. It's pretty heavy on the sim side of things, but still approachable enough. And WRC has an absolute trunk load of content with some genuinely awesome stages. Those VR updates, they need to come faster. But if you play this in the morning, you don't even need coffee to wake up, because who needs coffee when you have dirt? Coming in at number 7 and winning the award for stupidest name, we have Triangle Strategy. Despite the title, this game delivers in spades where it matters most: tactical turn-based combat. And if you're a fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, you'll feel right at home here. The gameplay is rich with that nitty-gritty tactical goodness. Think positioning, backstabs, height advantages, and nearby allies all making a difference on the battlefield. Square Enix knows how to nail this genre, and it's a treat to have something like this in VR. Outside of combat, the game does start off slow as hell. I mean, seriously, I almost fell asleep in the headset during the first few hours, but I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did. Now I'm fully engaged with the story, which offers branching pathways and meaningful decisions. It's worth noting that the narrative does take up a significant chunk, probably about half the game. And I haven't actually finished Triangle Strategy yet. I'm about halfway through. I think most playthroughs will take you about 30 or so hours. And here's the kicker. The flat screen version costs $60, but it's only $30 on the Quest store, making it kind of feel like a steal. Triangle Strategy, stupid name, good game. Coming in at number 6, we have Underdogs. And I slept on this game shamefully for quite a long time. Even after reading many comments and praises about it, I just couldn't stomach another arena fighter. However, I was wrong, and this game is badass. It starts off a little bit generic, and then you see its brilliance. The upgrade system is really well done and just as much fun as the combat, and those upgrades are numerous with some cool synergies and of course some boss fights. And there's also some really well done risk versus reward roguelike going on here. Underdogs is dripping with this industrial gang attitude, and I dig it. It also has gotten a ton of updates since launch, and they aren't done yet. The devs have actually even been hinting at giving this game multiplayer, and that would be epic. I'm kind of roguelike guy. I like roguelikes. Sometimes I just want to put on the headset and have gameplay injected directly into my veins. And this does exactly that. And like Vendetta Forever, it's one of those games that proves that so-called old VR ideas aren't tired at all. They just need to be done right. And when they're done right, it's still fresh, exciting, and ridiculously fun. Underdogs has a 97% approval rating on Steam for a reason, and I'm looking forward to when it releases on PSVR 2. And when that happens, I'll see if I can get my hands on it and let you know how it is. I think with the haptics, it could be the best version of the game, so press subscribe to stay up to date. Being reintroduced at number 5 is the Arizona Sunshine remake. Another big surprise this year. We had no idea this was in the works, and it's great to see this VR classic get modernized. I actually never played the original game. This was my first experience with it, and I had a ton of fun playing it with a friend. It's very polished, and the weapon handling and zombie beheading just feels great. And I just had a ton of fun dismembering those Freds. And I enjoyed its sense of humor. It also includes all of the DLC from the original game, so it's really a great value. And if you do own the original, it's a cheap $10 upgrade. It's not an overly complex game, but its mechanics are solid, and there are some pretty memorable moments with ridiculous over-the-top action. And it's definitely better with friends. Okay, moving on. Coming in at number 4, we have Alien Rogue Incursion. And I want to start off by saying that they fixed the virtual desktop issues, and I just got done testing it. So if you were holding out for that, I can give you the all clear. And I really struggled with where to place this game on the list. At times, it felt like it deserved to be in a much higher spot, and at others, much lower. As a huge fan of the Alien franchise, getting to live out some of these moments in this game felt like a pure fan service. The xenomorphs are just incredibly well done. They move in such a lifelike, terrifying way that it just puts you on edge. That said, the later stages of the game do falter a bit. The xenomorphs eventually start to feel a little bit more like a chore than a genuine thrill, and the game itself is pretty basic. You only have 3 weapons, and they never upgrade or evolve in any way. But despite these shortcomings, the game has earned this place on the list. And what really elevates Rogue Incursion is the atmosphere and the immersion. Its best moments come when you're creeping through dark hallways, scanner in hand, as that ominous blip of movement builds the tension. It's exactly the kind of experience that every Alien fan has dreamed of, and it's undeniably fun to spill some acidic blood. I thoroughly enjoyed the story from start to finish, and I can't wait to get my hands on part 2. We have arrived at the podium, and taking the bronze medal is probably the most divisive game of the year, Behemoth. Behemoth delivered some of the most memorable moments in any VR game I've played in 2024. It reached the highest highs, with the Behemoth fights truly standing out and being unforgettable. The second Behemoth battle in particular is just an instant classic and easily one of the best boss fights in VR. That said, I just wish the game had a couple more Behemoth fights. Those encounters are the clear highlight. The game isn't higher on the list for a couple reasons. The combat, while improved with patches, still feels a little bit clunky, and it's just too heavy on the human combat to be higher on the list. But I still had a ton of fun hacking people to bits. Behemoth is an absolute visual masterpiece, and easily the best looking title of the year. The visuals are jaw-dropping, making every moment a feast for the eyes. The game also incorporates fun parkour mechanics and a touch of puzzling to round it out. One of the game's standout features is its masterful use of scale. Whether you're standing next to a towering behemoth or gazing at these imposing landscapes, you constantly feel small, and it's awe-inspiring. And this is the kind of game that truly showcases what VR is capable of and leaves players saying, whoa. If this were someone's first VR experience, it could quite possibly change their life because it leans so heavily into VR's strengths. And I'd love to look back and say that Behemoth was the beginning of one of VR's landmark franchises. It has that kind of potential, and I hope future entries can build on its incredible foundation and reach even higher. Okay, moving on. My runner-up for Game of the Year is Metro Awakening. From start to finish, Metro Awakening left a lasting impression on me. This is Metro built from the ground up for VR, and it shows. The atmosphere is thick and palpable, pulling you into its world like few games can. The pace is careful and deliberate, constantly teetering on the edge of fight or flight. The VR mechanics and motion controls are top tier and immersive, and you'll find yourself playing this game in a way that kind of doesn't make sense for a game. When you kill a guy, you'll take the ammo out of the rifle and empty the chamber, just in case someone else wants to pick that gun up and hunt you down. But the NPCs can't even do that, because that's the power of this game's immersion. The horror elements can be intense. Some will say this isn't a true horror game, and I get what they're saying, but I disagree. Awakening may be too intense for some, but that horror vibe is integral to the experience. The shooting mechanics are rock solid, the guns are chunky and powerful with a satisfying variety to choose from. It's a well-rounded game, blending moments of horror and stealth and firefights with a deep and moving story. The hands-on VR mechanics are a real standout. The gas mask is brilliantly implemented, and I absolutely love the backpack inventory system. It's clever, practical, and smooth. But what kept Metro Awakening from claiming the top spot is that some sections felt recycled and padded, which slowed the momentum just a bit. That said, the game picks back up and delivers a strong final act that left me satisfied. And in the end, Metro Awakening is a powerfully immersive experience, and that's exactly why I play VR. Vertigo Games is easily one of the best developers in VR, and they had 2 games that made it into my top 5. And whatever they make next, they have my attention. So here we are, at the top of the list, and by now you've probably guessed it. My game of the year is Batman Arkham Shadow. Arkham Shadow is an absolute triumph, a complete and polished experience from start to finish. This isn't just a VR game that excels at one thing, it's a fully fleshed out, well-rounded title. But it doesn't win Game of the Year for that reason. The combat is downright addicting, making you feel like an unstoppable, enraged cage fighter. This is an angry Batman, and it's a power trip. The story is gripping, packed with tension, memorable moments, and iconic characters. Add in compelling stealth mechanics and brilliant detective sections, and you have the complete Arkham package. But what truly sets Arkham Shadow apart, though, is how smooth and polished all of its mechanics are. The combat just flows effortlessly. You punch and dodge and counter seamlessly from one enemy to the next. And while your body is putting in immense effort, the controls feel effortless. I never expected combat this arcade-like in nature to feel so immersive, but it absolutely works. It's easy to learn, easy to execute, yet still dynamic and challenging. The gadget system is another highlight. Despite the abundance of tools at your disposal, there's no fumbling or awkward switching. It's so well designed, it feels like the game doesn't even have an inventory system. Your gear is right at your fingertips, perfectly placed on your suit in a way that feels natural, like you personally designed it. The grappling hook in particular is flawless, making the one in Behemoth feel a little clunky by comparison. It just knows where I want to go and gets you there without a second thought. In Arkham Shadow, you don't just play Batman, you become Batman, and the game nails that fantasy in every possible way. And if you're a Batman fan, this is a must play. And that, everyone, is my top 10 for 2025. I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe helped you find a new game or two. Maybe helped you figure out if our tastes align. If they do, consider subscribing. I do a lot of reviewing on this channel. I like to keep you informed and help you decide kind of which games to buy. So thanks. Cheers to this year and next, and I'll catch you next time.